Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today we have a Living Mythology special hosted by Paul Dale Roberts. Greetings, Paul.
Greetings, Hercules. Tonight we're going to have a different show. It deals with the paranormal, and our guest, Maria Martinez, is dealing with Hurricane Lala in Hawaii. So, with prayers to her that she is protected and her house doesn't blow down or anything like that. So, um, I didn't even realize that they have a hurricane out there. So anyway, I hope that she stays safe, and we plan to have her on some other time. Um, Tonight, oh yeah, and Donnie Cho, he was supposed to be with us, and he's something came up and he can't be on here. So, but I have a great panel here, and tonight what we're going to do is what's new in your paranormal world. So just lay it out. So, and I know people have been busy. Michael Koff, I saw him. He was doing some kind of ghost hunt. He had videos up on Facebook. And so I know he's been busy. And I know the other Michael's been busy. And Steve Ward, of course, is busy with Mothman. And Sue's busy and every. Oh, Sue just recently got baptized, so I would love to hear about that. Sage always has stuff going on with the Civil War ghosts and everything else. So I wouldn't be surprised if a Civil War ghost isn't sitting right next to him. So we're going to start off with Michael Koff because Michael Koff might have to leave early. So, Michael Koff, what's been? I know you've been busy. I saw you're ghost hunting. So, what's new in your paranormal world?
So, yes, I was recently on a paranormal investigation, and I recently did a show with a gentleman named Augie Nost, and we were discussing the paranormal. And Sage, I actually came up with a theory about the Civil War
Oh boy.
that the paranormal world that might actually review how we look at the soldiers at like Gettysburg.
Mhm.
And what it was is a lot in the 1800s, you had the farm life. There wasn't like the camaraderie, the friendship, going to hang out with neighbors like we have today. So the soldiers in the Civil War became like brothers. Like we talk about our military today being a brotherhood. Well, that's what they were. And so I started thinking when we see apparitions of the soldiers walking in the fields or sitting down to eat and joining them, could it not be they're gathering there in memory of their brotherhood? And it's not the trauma of dying on the battlefield per se, but they are there to reunite and spend time with their brothers that they fought with. And that was their happy time. And we talk a lot about ghosts going back to where they're happiest. Well, perhaps a lot of these soldiers going, marching with your friends, going into battle, this might be their happy moment because there wasn't much, going on in the 1800s like we have today. And so that was something that I was starting to think about instead of always saying, oh, these soldiers died. That's why they're still here. Maybe it's because it's their happy place. And another aspect that we were talking about that I pointed out was Gettysburg was what we call an accidental battle. It wasn't supposed to happen. Majority of the other battles in the Civil War were planned, they were expected, so the soldiers knew what was coming. But at Gettysburg, nobody knew where each other was and clashed and had 3 days of blind luck, so to speak. And I think that's why the energy at Gettysburg is somewhat different from the others, is the soldiers didn't have that. Let's put ourselves in the mentality of today may be the day, I meet my maker. Or I'll get lucky and come out of it. But I'm going to make peace with that. They didn't have that at Gettysburg. Gettysburg was, you look over the line of sight and you're like, oh my God, there's rifles pointed at me. What the hell? What am I supposed to do? So that was where I was going with the Civil War and going, maybe we need to start re-looking at what we're thinking all these soldiers are doing here. So that was food for thought for you, Sage.
Yeah, we'll touch on that in a second. And just that's a very fair point because I know from my time and travels to Gettysburg and spending a ton of time in Gettysburg, there's a lot of like perfect storm hauntings. There's times they will see residual fighting, like they're stuck in a loop, but there'll also be times where they are quite literally just walking around. And you bring up a very, very solid point there because I do feel like, especially like, other battlefields I've been to, it's almost like they're coming together to remember that's where they fought. The veterans at Gettysburg did come back until they were all gone for anniversaries. So it's
Right.
very possible they're still gathering there in their own minds after they've passed on as well.
That phenomenon is also very ancient. In Greece, after the Trojan War and up until the days of Rome, the Trojan War that happened in Troy was like Gettysburg. It was
Yes.
a birth location. People in the antique world knew what it was. So you have to disregard the Schliemann propaganda that he discovered it, but everybody knew where it was. And there was a Lemnian, and I'm a Lemnian named Philostratos, who was most famous for writing the biography of Apollonius of Tyana. He wrote a tourist's guide to Troy, and people reported there seeing warriors from the Trojan War, some who were famous and recognizable, most who were not, and they'd see them again stuck in loops, reenacting pieces of the battle, or being conscious and able to interact with the people there. So the battlefield phenomenon is indeed very old.
Yes, and one thing that I got reaffirmed with on my investigation that I was on this weekend was you have to very cautiously, but yet very intently look at the audience. And what I mean by look at the audience is where are you? Was life like there? So we were at a nursing home where their care was minimal to none, and that's why they got shut down. And so there were times when female investigators would go off on their own and have a little fun, do a little show, and it was ramping up energy. And the male spirits and probably some of the female spirits too, being a nursing home, what else you gonna do? They enjoyed it. And when we would have fun, like poking fun at stuff, like there's a famous clip. Well, I say famous because the evidence was really cool. Is they had an EVP rope down, and one of the female investigators that was in charge got on a two-wheel dolly, and somebody rolled her by really quick, just being funny. And as soon as she got off and started walking back, the entire EVP rope went like 4 or 5 lights after no activity. And so it kind of reminded me, yeah, you got to have fun doing the paranormal, but you also have to pay attention to who may be around.
Yep.
If you're going after like the nurses or the medical people, they may not be there. It's the other people that are there. So that was just an observation I wanted to share with that. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for all that good information. The next person I'm going to select here is Hercules Invictus. What's new in your paranormal world? And I know you're an Avenger. So anything going on with that?
I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, so that's one of my challenges that I'm facing right now. And they had an organization called the Parkinson's Disease Avengers. So I figured they needed a Hercules, just like Marvel needed a Hercules on their Avengers group. So I joined, and we have a meeting once a month, and the call is Avengers Assemble, just like in the Marvel comics. And we plan activities. So far, they wrote a proclamation in my town acknowledging that we needed to raise awareness about Parkinson's, which is one of the fastest growing neurological disorders. And then they kept the blue light on at night for around a week to acknowledge Parkinson's disease. And now I've suggested forming an ad hoc committee, and I've been talking to hospitals and doctors and therapists in our area so I can create a guide for people to steer them to where they can get the type of help that they need. And I'm doing community night. I'm going to have a table of giving out information and giving out other things and talking to people. So that's with the Avengers portion of it. Other than that, I'm doing like a best of all the things I've done in my life that are related to the paranormal or other realms. And I'm putting together like the ultimate type of experience that I can. So that's going to be happening here on the podcast. It's going to be happening in the community. It's happening in a bunch of other places. So all of you will be included and invited if you'd like to join the new adventure. I used to hold Argonaut expeditions when we tackled social problems. The first one was in New York, and we tackled the digital divide. So it'll be something like that. We'll pick a social problem. It won't be Parkinson's because I'm already addressing that. Unless you want to become an Avenger too, then I'll welcome you into the Avengers chapter that I have. But it will be a lot of different initiatives, and if you want to take part, that would be fantastic. If you don't, that will be fantastic too. That's what's new and exciting on my end.
Fantastic, Hercules. That's great. Sue, I know you just recently got baptized. What's new in your paranormal world? And can you tell us about that baptism?
Well, I was at the St. Louis Union Station Hotel. It's rich with history. Definitely tons of haunting can go on there. Um, there was um, there was a section. I was staying at the clock tower, which is the part of the original part of the building. They do have sort of an add-on to the building, which is more modern hotel room. Uh, but the main hotel area, along with the grand hall, the restaurants, was really fun to look into the history of the place even further. Um, During one of the shows that I was there, someone was put their hand on my back shoulder area. You can kind of see that reaction I had in the video that I was in a few days ago. Um, so it has. I did a little, I guess, ghost hunting, if you will. I had my little device that the readings and stuff on it, and I didn't get any reaction, but I thought it was interesting. There was like a hutch and a dresser area that was near the grand hall, and it reflects onto the mirror of these two statue pillars of women holding these little lanterns. And so it constantly reflects that. There was a mirror over this hutch. And just for the fun of it, I went over there with my reading device, and I went over there and kind of got some sort of a reading off of it. It didn't, the numbers didn't jump very high to change from green or anything, but it stayed green, but it climbed at least all the way up to like 12, all the way up to 20. There was something in the corner of the mirror that reacted, which I thought was interesting, but it didn't react in any other parts of the mirror or the dresser. There was some sort of residual energy there. So I thought it was interesting. The most I had Also down, which we call the richer areas, which is near the main train area where the train used to be, all the trains in the station area, there was there was what I call the square rooms, and it's just because they had this little shaft in this pillar area, and then they had this elevator. That elevator is actually haunted because you could hear the elevator rumble while the elevator is stationary. It has not been called up or down. It stayed right wherever the floor I was on when I got off of it. But you can hear that elevator rumbling as if it was called, and then you could hear the ding, but the doors never opened. So it has these ghost sounds, if you will, of it being active. So you can see that there. Sometime, if you guys want to come over with me, I'll show you. You can hang out late at night. I was actually there at 2, 3 in the morning.
What building? What building is this again?
St. Louis Union Station Hotel.
Oh, okay, okay.
But it was
So,
St. Louis Union Station. It's a hotel now. And actually, it was a hotel throughout the entire history of it. There was what they call, you had to have money to stay there at all. Otherwise, if you didn't have money, a lot of times they would have their trunk or their suitcase and they would shove it in a corner somewhere and fall asleep right on it. They would talk about a lot of passengers did that. But if you did have money, the room that we stayed in had a different lines that were listed on. There were famous lines. We stayed in the New York line. Um, and we were staying in the clock tower, and the room has a lot of character. The room is a pretty much original, other than they renovated a bit of it, but you can still see the old steel beams and all the character and stuff. The pictures, you can guys see it on the video. You can see some of the originals and the renovation at the same time. But all those were hotel rooms, but you had to have money. And then the area where that elevator that does the ghosty sound, that was for the super rich. Those are the rooms that it can easily be anywhere between six to eight to $1,000 a night type of room, and those were for the ultra rich. And back in the day, they were, yeah, crazy expensive, and you had special room areas where I guess if you had, hired help or whatever to serve you. So that was it was neat to see the history of the photos that we saw on the wall, what it looked like before they renovated it. So there were some activity while I was there. It wasn't loud or screaming, but there was some activity there. There were some cold spots in my room, or there's some cold spots in the hallway in certain areas. And you'll get more reaction, late at night when it's quiet down and everybody pretty much has gone to bed. And you'll see other fellow ghost hunters out there. There's some people that are staying to check the place out.
was
But I
there a
did
mirror across from the mirror?
No, that it's like what do you want to call it? Like a whole cove. It looks like a half circle, the whole floor area, and there's this Hutch dresser and a mirror above it. Very old-fashioned looking. I didn't, but there was this, but the mirror reflected on the two statues that were above the Grand Hall area. It's on a ledge.
Yeah. I asked because mirrors are thought to trap spirits.
Yeah, and
And
it's
so if
very
there was
possible.
another mirror, it could jump to another location. And so if there's not another mirror, you
Yeah.
may have seen something that's trapped in there.
Yeah, that's probably why I got a little bit of reaction from the EMF reader. Um, Otherwise, I noticed that they darkened the mirrors on the elevator, and that would make it so that you wouldn't have these cross mirror happening. The mirrors were tinted in the elevators, I noticed, and I wonder if they did that because of all the spirit activity.
I wonder if it's
And
Mercury.
yeah, I don't know.
And I like it with the cross mirrors because you have it looks like it's going into infinity.
Yeah, that infinity
Yeah.
Yeah.
look when they put them on each side of the opposite
Mhm.
walls, and then they
Yeah.
always have a mirror on the back wall. So I noticed that the last time I was there several years ago, the mirrors were not tinted. So they must have just recently tinted the mirrors. And I'm assuming maybe because there wasn't so much activity going on, if you infinity them, that's not always the best combination.
And we had an investigation where the mirrors were like that, and you could see into infinity. And the occupant of the house said that I think it was the ninth mirror that she's looking at, and then there's a little uh, like an orc or something like that, peeked his little head out and looked at her, and she totally freaked out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I heard infinity mirrors and haunted places are not really the best combo. You know. So, yeah, you wanted to talk about the baptism. Well,
Oh yeah, 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 the baptism.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
yeah, per your request, you have requested and suggested me to get baptized. I was trying to figure out how I could make that done because I do have a backyard, but I don't have a pool that would, be deep enough to make it happen, be able to get back up on it. So I actually kind of had a plan, and I thought maybe, my husband could do something about that while I was in the pool. But there was actually a priest, pastor. I don't remember which, but he said he was willing to dunk me 3 times and kind of baptize me. And so he baptized me at the hotel pool, and just for your request. And it didn't silence the voices that I'm still hearing from my hearing aid. It doesn't. The voices don't happen if I have my hearing aid turned off, but I did feel better because I think maybe I had other entities and attachments to me. So it would, whatever was off, I felt lighter anyway. So at least it did that. So thank you for the recommendation, Paul.
And you're welcome, Sue. Thank you very much, Sue, and I hope everything works out with that. Um, what's new in your paranormal world, Michael Waterman?
Well, funny you should ask, and I'm glad Sage and Michael are here, and you're here. I have a Civil War Confederate soldier who stands just about outside my bedroom window, my bedroom door, and I had an EVP device that I have on my phone. Maybe he's the reason my phone is a little messy. I think you can see me better now, but I asked him finally what's going on with you? Because he had been gone for about, oh, I don't know, 3 months. And the words I heard were, I'm sergeant. So he was a sentry, but he's a sergeant. I would love Michael and Sage and Paul to come out one day. This building is 20 years old, I'm told. I moved in 3.5 years ago. And it seems like this was a battlefield because there are other things. And there's also a regular, I'll call her my resident ghost. Her name is Eleanor Collins. She's an older Black woman. She died in 1880. I looked her up. She was freed in 1865, but she never left. There was a I guess a plantation here, and she ran the smokehouse. And the only thing she ever says is, "I'm waiting for my man to show up," and that's why she's still here. But she hasn't been here in a while. But I saw her. Oddly enough, I saw her in my garage, which is attached to the apartment. And she was in the garage, and it looked like she was walking around like that might have been where the smokehouse was. So that's something that's been, as it got hotter outside, my ghosts, I guess because it's air conditioned, my ghosts have come back. Maybe they're cooling off. What do you think of that?
That is very interesting. Anybody have any comments on that one?
Hey, you live in Savannah, right, Mike?
Oh, I sure do. I'm 5 miles outside of town. Um, Not too far. I'm on Chatham Parkway off of Ogeechee. I'm by the river, the Ogeechee River,
Okay.
and it's an interesting the complex I live in is called the Fountains.
Okay.
It's not old. You know the area?
Very roughly, just from Civil War research and just knowing, what happened there.
Well, I know that there's also one other weird thing, and it didn't happen. It's been raining a lot here because, it's a rainy day, rainy night in Georgia. But anyway, I usually have a police officer who was killed in 1967. He was shot in the back, and sometimes I see him with his face in his hands on my window. I believe that this place is where his car was, my bedroom. and then he was putting his hands on his car to try to get in before they shot him. He was running after away because there was a race riot there in 1967. You you two weren't born then, but I was, and I know about the aggravation, the negative energy, and what have you. Martin Luther King was here also, and he ended a lot of the angst and the anger that was here. However, this guy, he's a heavier set trooper. He has on what I see is the mirrored sunglasses. He looks like he's right out of Smokey and the Bandit. He's got that look. He's a trooper. He's got on that buff colored hat and suit and mirrored sunglasses, and I think he has a mustache. But all I see is his hands and his face and kind of the outline of his arms and his hand. And I only can see him when the weather's really, really bad. And I believe he was killed in a rainstorm because that's the only time he appears. How do you feel about that?
To me personally, that kind of feels like a connection between a residual while also being very, very intelligent because yeah, I feel like you're seeing that for a reason. Like he's wanting you to understand and know that like, hey, this is what actually happened to me. But also the same hand, it's almost like it's in a loop.
I think he is a loop, and he's not the one that shows up as much. The other one is in full um, Confederate dress. He has on a gray hat, a gray suit. He wears a black duster that goes to the floor. I can't see his feet or his boots, but he has a pouch about where his waist would be. And
Yep.
I assume that either has bullets or tobacco or both. And he wears a gun with a fixed bayonet. And he's just standing at attention. He appears to have kind of a reddish beard. It's hard because it's translucent. You can
Yep.
see kind of see through him.
Yeah.
And his face is very pale. He doesn't look well. I believe he was shot there. And that's why he's standing there. He's still at attention.
Well, and
He's
that was the end of the March to the Sea, if I'm not mistaken, that Sherman did.
Yep.
And so Sherman was ordered to do a raise it to the ground, leave nothing behind trail. And so, yeah, there was a lot of brutality, but at the same time, it was a lot of people were more afraid because he was coming than the fact that the Union Army was coming. It was like, no, it's because it's Sherman.
Well, he
And
didn't burn
so,
he didn't burn Savannah, but he did burn Atlanta, as we know.
Yes.
Yeah. Savannah he left, I guess because he didn't think Savannah was significant, which is kind of insulting.
no, they
But that's
needed the port. They
yeah.
needed it as a port. And so he was everything to the sea you could burn down because they can't use the crops, they can't use the land. So nobody's going to follow you. But at a port, they need the ships to bring supplies in. So you don't burn the port, you just take it.
Yeah.
Well,
Just keep.
the plantation that you see in Gone with the Wind, 12 Oaks, is now a shopping center on actually on I believe it's on um what is it, Abercorn.
They tore it down?
The yeah, apparently the army did.
Well, because
It's
I
called
have been, I went there as a teenager.
the plantation's now a shopping center.
Wow.
Oh,
Do you
I think
think
that's
that
terrible.
conditions I have a question for all of you guys. Do you think ghosts or spirits can be triggered to appear when the conditions are right due to the time that they died? Like it was blizzardy, it was rainy, it was snowy, or a certain bell was ringing, or something like that. What do you
Oh,
guys think? And
absolutely.
can trigger them to appear because of some certain familiarity with it.
I believe that so as well. Certain conditions trigger certain responses and will bring back certain energies.
Yeah.
The other
They
thing I
call them, they're like a perfect storm because you may have somebody in a Union soldier's outfit trying to be a trigger object, and the weather is the same condition as it was the day of the battle. And it's like, it's just that perfect storm where the energy is ramped up because everything is like pretty much a trigger. So yeah, I definitely feel like it brings out different spirits than may usually be there.
We have a lot of elementals here too, what people would call elves and fairies and things. And I always tell people when they see a ring of mushrooms to leave them alone, that that's what we call a fairy ring. And
Yeah.
I noticed there's a grave out on the highway on Chatham Parkway where there was a ring of mushrooms around this cross. The people always put flowers and a flag on that by that cross, and they tore down the mushrooms. And I think that's a big mistake. It makes the fairy folk angry. And I maybe it's the druid in me or the Celt in me, but I'm very, very conscious of those people, the fae, the fairy folk, and I don't wish people to do them harm. I think they're interdimensional beings. I think that they can come and go into from the physical plane into their own. I don't know what you'd call it. It's if you read Tolkien, you'll know those kind of things that they can move from this plane into the next plane. And I don't like it when they destroy things that I know belong to the fairy folk.
That's the topic in my next get together that I have in my home that you attended for your booth. Yeah,
Okay.
the folklore entities called elementals by some, called nature spirits by others. So that was an excellent introduction to the topic.
Well, if you want me to show up, put me on Zoom. I'll be right there.
can arrange that. I'd love that.
Sure, I'd be delighted. I mean, I'll be a box. I'll feel like Spock and when that one episode where they took out his brain, I'll just be a head. That'd be fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. We're going to go to the next person. It's so funny because when you talk about Georgia, and I think you sort of mentioned Rainy Night in Georgia, that song. I was headed for Germany. I was in the Army, and I had a layover in Atlanta.
Mm.
The music that I was listening to was Rainy Night in Georgia and Midnight Train to Georgia. And what was kind of funny about Midnight Train to Georgia is, I don't know if a lot of people don't realize this, but I had the Guinness Book World Records of disco dancing. I danced 205 hours, which is 8.5 days.
Oh God.
Yeah. So if you look in disco and you scroll down, you'll see my name there saying that I had the world's record. But they sent, right after I got the world's record, they sent me down to Los Angeles to make movies, so like Roller Boogie and Skate Town USA. Well, I thought I was going to become a big movie star, but there was multi-talented people out there, and all I knew how to do was dance. So when I was driving back to Sacramento to my home, the song came on, Midnight Train to Georgia. LA was too much for the man, and it was too much for me. And I had a tear coming down my eye, and I'm driving back to Sacramento. Boom, I failed. But anyway,
So was that the night the lights went out in
yeah,
Georgia?
There's a good quote.
There we go again. Okay. Next, what's new in your paranormal world, Steve Ward?
Before I get into that, I wanted to mention something about the fairies. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, of course, we know as the author of Sherlock Holmes, was also a paranormal investigator. He wrote a book called The Coming of the Fairies. In there, there's a passage that sounds very Keelian. And I wish Doyle and Keel could have had a conversation. But he wrote that the appearance of the fairies is largely dependent on the person viewing them, which sounds very much like something John Keel would write. But anyway, yeah, I've got, I'm coming up on the Mothman Festival and the Van Meter Visitor Festival. I'll be the MC. I'm going to be doing speaking. I've actually got to clean my house because a buddy of mine is coming down from the Northern Panhandle and going to stay here. So, it looks like, I won't describe what it looks like right now. But
Like a
I'm
Mothman den.
worse, far worse. Yeah, I've got I'm digging out my critters that I've cobbled together in the basement. Monsters. I light up their eyes. I've got to check the wiring and the batteries and everything. They go up for the Mothman hayride Saturday night. The big attraction is a flyover of the Mothman, which a couple of my buddies take care of. So that's going on. I've also been preparing my talk. I've got maybe 12 books I'm taking the information from. I sent images to a good friend of mine to create a PowerPoint for me because I'm incapable of doing it myself at this point. But she always does a great job. So the basic structure is going to start out with John Keel's Mothman Prophecies, but I'll be talking about the silent contactees, not so much about Mothman, a little bit about the Men in Black, and not so much about the UFOs. But these are individuals that John Keel was in contact with that firmly believed they were getting messages from some kind of space intelligence or whatever. And some of the predictions, some of the information was solid, and some of it was nonsense. There was a very long, very large trickster aspect. The other part will be one of the many books will be Hungry Ghosts by Joe Fisher, who was in contact with a medium in Toronto several years ago, and was in contact with many discarnate spirits, World War II spirits, a woman supposedly from Greece he was in contact with, and he went to England and Greece to prove that the information was correct. Some of it was, and some of it was nonsense. So it's just very interesting. The hungry ghosts that we've talked about before on another show from the Buddhist mythology and the silent contactees are very similar. But just to finish up briefly, I'm going to do an aside. And the channelers throughout history, like George King from England back in the 50s, I think is when he started. George Van Tassel of Giant Rock in California. George Hunt Williamson, who supposedly was contacting the space intelligences over Morse code, over radio. The Carlo Ruckert and Don Elkins, who supposedly channeled Ra and many other entities. It's very interesting. These people didn't know, all of them didn't know each other. And there's different time periods, different decades, different parts of the world. But in some cases, they're getting some of the same information, wherever this is coming from, the collective unconscious, maybe real discarnate entities or space brothers, who knows? But, you have like, for example, a few examples, the planet Maldek, Maldek. That's what many of them believe that there's was a planet in between Mars and Jupiter. It came to some mishap, exploded, and that's where we got the asteroid belt. That comes from George King. Also, there was, I can't remember the name of the contactee, but supposedly he was channeling another entity that shows up now and then named Monka that talked about the destruction of this planet. Carlo Ruckert and Don Elkins, the Ra entity, that like the Egyptian Ra, not like Ra Ra Ra. You got the spirit, okay? They were also getting this. Another pattern that shows up is the good aliens are from the Pleiades. Bad aliens are from the Orion group, man. You don't want to mess with them because they're nasty. There are just many, and some of the names keep showing up, like Ashtar. That guy gets all kinds of FaceTime, so to speak. It's fascinating that, again, people that don't know each other, and they're wherever they're drawing this from, there are these similar patterns. Let me give you just one more. When George Van Tassel was sitting in the rooms under Giant Rock where he lived, he would channel various entities or whatever, and the people would ask, "Well, can you land? Can we see you?" And they said, "Well, no, we can't make contact, but if you step outside and look toward the west or whatever, you'll see us." And you see, they would step outside, and sure enough, they would see strange lights moving in the sky. Decades later, the LL group that was channeling Ra and all kinds of other entities, they asked the same thing. Can we see you? Can we meet? And the raw philosophy talks about, third, fourth, fifth density and all this stuff. And they said because we're different densities, we can't actually make contact. But if you step outside and look up, you'll see us. They stepped outside the house, looked up, and there's a UFO up there. So it's just, I'm not sure what it tells us about the reality of all this, but it's an aside that I'm going to get into besides the main body of the talk, which will deal with the silent contactees and the hungry ghosts. So I've got uh, I've got to put that together with my PowerPoint that I'll be getting in the mail soon, and clean the bloody house, get the monsters together, and I'll be all set.
And I'm inviting you to join us in our UFO entity Enigma group, because what you just talked about is the direction this whole season's taking, including a lot of the same incidents. Hunger
Excellent.
Ghost on my reading list. I recommend Hunger Ghost to anyone and everyone who works with spirits in any capacity. And if you're going to study that book, study also romance scams book, because the romance scams are physical, they're of this world. The types of deceptions the spirit use are the same ones used by the romance scams. So you get a better picture of spiritual deception. And also John Keel, who I knew, and I knew Carla Ruckert also, by the way, with the wrong.
Oh, really?
Yes, she was on my show years ago, and her husband or her significant other was on the show because she passed on with the raw material. I reviewed them and so forth. And John Keel I knew, and what you're describing is he had focused on a lot in Disneyland of the Gods, where there seemed to be these of cosmic information that you can tap into from time to time. And if you compare it like a radio or a broken record player. And
Right.
I would love for you to expand upon these topics on the show if you're willing.
I'd love to.
Excuse
Keel
me.
talked about the great phonograph in the sky where the same information keeps churning around and round. And different people get this information and they think they've got this revelation and they're the only ones. When if you look back in history, the same kind of, in general, the same kind of information has been coming through.
And we've reached the 10-minute mark, just to let everybody know.
Oh, okay. We got to move on then. Our last but not least, Sage Gatto. Sage Gatto, what's new in your paranormal world?
It's funny you ask. Recently, I've just been kind of gearing up for my Gettysburg trip here in a few weeks. And as it gets closer to my travels to different battlefields is when the activity around the house decides to ramp up. Recently, I've been more fascinated on the first day of battle at Gettysburg and been following little rabbit holes and leads and end up contacting a soldier that's been coming to me that fought on the first day of battle. And haven't quite put my finger down yet if he's followed with me from previous travels to the battlefield or if it was from another visit, because he found out he's actually from the same town that my best friend lives in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, just about a couple hours north of me. And he was a part of a brigade of marksmen that were all from that area. And it was kind of astonishing to me because it just out of nowhere I would open Facebook and there'd be ads, and people talking about his regiment or the brigade as a whole, and just random just snippets that just normally don't ever pop up. And now all of a sudden I'm seeing everything related to this, and I started talking to just to him and trying to channel him more, got more information from him, and have definitively identified him to being a part of the 150th Pennsylvania Volunteers. That was part of the Bucktail Brigade, and it's pretty interesting to know that the pull and ties to the first day of battle are directly related to him and where he fought. So that's going to be an exciting thing to touch on when I'm back in town in 3 short weeks. Other than that, just been doing my usual thing of trying to fill out bullets and learning more and more about the war. Just whatever pops in my mind or whatever pops up, I'm always researching stuff.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sage. Well, let's go around and see how people can contact everybody here. Sue, how can people contact you?
I am on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and you can contact me on Messenger if you want to make an appointment, just to have somebody to talk to. I'm actually in the night shift, so I work from about roughly, lately I've been working around 11 in the morning to around 2 in the afternoon, starting, depends if I have any appointments, and I can go all the way to about 4 in the morning. So I'm actually the night shift if anybody wants to get a hold of me. Otherwise, it's at suelightworker@gmail.com if you want to email me.
Thank you there, Sue. Hercules, how can people reach you?
They can watch our podcasts here on YouTube and connections on Facebook. I can reach through Facebook and YouTube. And I have a bunch of books that I wrote or contributed to that can be found on Amazon on my author's page and on Goodreads.
Sounds good. Sage Gato, how can people contact you?
Yep, you can just search my name up on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I'm on all those. I will be live from Gettysburg when we're traveling. It's a ghost chasing trip, so we're going to be doing a lot of nighttime ghost hunting around town. We're staying in a haunted bed and breakfast, so we'll probably be live from there whenever. So please, if you're interested, give me a follow on TikTok and look out for those lives.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Michael Waterman, how can people reach you?
I'm fairly easy. I am on Facebook, Michael K. Waterman. You can get me on Instagram or TikTok. I'm on both. You can reach me from the magazine that I work for, which is today'switch.net. So that would be Michael K at today'switch.net. You can call me at 516-650-3691. Or you can also reach me on the Paranotero Temple, which is on Instagram, or Phone a Wizard, because I'm the Wizard of Phone a Wizard, on Facebook, or the various books I'm in, and of course here on YouTube.
Steve Ward, how can people reach you?
Steve Ward, Facebook, type in Point Pleasant. Come and see us on the 19th and 20th of September at the Mothman Festival. And you can come and see me on most Saturdays at the Mothman Museum. Last Saturday, I was up north with a couple of geeks playing a Lovecraft board game, Mansions of Madness. In the first game, two of us survived. One of us went insane. In the second game, we all got creamed and were overwhelmed by the monsters.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michael. I mean, Steve. Michael Koff. Okay, see, I got Michael in my head. Michael Koff, how can people reach you?
I can be found on Facebook by my name. My books are available on Amazon, and I can be found through Paul with Paul's Pop Culture Podcast and this show, All Things Paranormal. And you can also find me on Hercules's panels when I get the lovely invites and can make it.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
And you know what, Paul? If you've got Michael in your head, there's a medication for that.
I know.
Yes.
I resemble that remark.
Yes.
I didn't say you want to take it, but it's there.
And if you want to get a hold of me, all you have to do is Google, Bing, or even Chat GPT. Just type in Paul Dale Roberts. You'll see a bunch of my articles. I just recently reviewed this book. People send me their books, and I review them and stuff like that. But anyway, a good book is by Richard Estep, or you can do a Chat GPT, and you'll see me pop up, Paul Dale Roberts. Thank you, everybody. It was a great show. Really got a lot of good information. Thank you, Hercules. Another Hercules Invictus production.
And thank you all. This was an excellent show. It was great to see everybody, and I'm looking forward to the next time we gather to speak, whatever the show happens to be.
Yes, and don't forget to tune in Wednesday for Paul's Pop Culture Podcast.
Yes, that's going to be fun.
Right.
And we have that special guest, DC Comics historian.
That's going to be so cool.
That's going to be really cool, yeah.
Yeah,
It's going to be a fun one.
Yep.